Atmos can be short for atmosphere, the envelope of gas that surrounds a planet. And if you look closely inside this cooler puppet, there's a little atmosphere in this cooler too, it seems. Welcome to Machines and More. Today we're going to take a quick look at Cooler Master's latest AIO. This is the Atmos, and you might have seen it already in the QUBE 500 video. I've been testing it since for a little bit, and it's a very impressive, nifty AIO. And first off, big thanks to Cooler Master for supplying this test unit. As with my reviews on this channel, they're not paid for by the manufacturer, and you can expect an independent and well-researched review. And please go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, if you enjoy content like this. All right, so Atmos 240mm or 360mm radiator versions. This one here is the 240, which is an ideal size for most cases, and there is a wide spectrum of CPUs that this unit is suitable for. So Cooler Master is doing something new for packaging versus what I've seen in the past with their AIOs. It's a very compact box here, and everything, if you look inside, everything has great organization and is clearly labeled. You've got, Intel hardware here, AMD hardware here, your RGB controller and the cabling in here, right? And then these also got diagrams, although maybe a little cryptic, but they're there. And the instructions, you could scan the QR code for if you need more details there. And I think it's apparent they've taken this UX here to the next level. And the impression just from the packaging here, the first impression, it's top tier. The cooler will cover your modern sockets, LGA 11.5X, 1200, 1700, and also AMDs, AM4, AM5. You will get a tube of thermal paste. You have to apply it yourself. You don't necessarily have to do it this way, but they do give you this, grease it and then remove decal here. So you'll apply the paste to the block, then take that off. You'll have the pattern left on that, and then just attach the block to the mounting hardware. You can do it that way. I don't think this is necessarily, going to make a more even application, but it certainly doesn't hurt. With this unit, the fans are pre-installed. They're screwed onto the radiator out of the box, and one thing I noticed was that there was a ton of torque applied to the screws at the mounting points, and the fan frames, they were bent. That's how much they were screwed down. I'm not sure if that was intentional. I don't think it should be, but it was very peculiar. I loosened them a bit, and the frames, they're no longer bent. The fans are a variant in the Sickle Flow series. They're calling this one the Sickle Flow Edge. These are high-speed fans going up to 2500 RPM on the spec, plus or minus 10%. I measured this one in at 2370 RPM, so it's well within the variance, but likely not a level that you'll want to run them at or need to run them at, but surprisingly they weren't extremely loud at that highest level either. But I still think it's well beyond what an LCS needs to be run at. If you need the occasional headroom for some overclocking, I don't know, something like that, it's there. They are RGB fans, those translucent center hub here, and that kind of disperses the LED out. You can use the included RGB controller if you don't want to use your motherboard's RGB solution. Otherwise, these are just 3-pin 5-volt ARGB. As for the radiator, they've stuck with their 27mm thick radiator here, and I really appreciate that because it allows versatility for a variety of different builds, especially in space-constrained mini-itx builds. You're working with a 52mm or so total thickness between the fan and the radiator together, and the CPU block, it also takes up about 53mm of height. So all around the compatibility, it's pretty good. I don't think there's too much difference here versus what I've seen on another one of their high-end units. This one on the left here is the PL240, for example, and this one is the Atmos. So you're pretty much dealing with the same, or materially the same 27mm radiator. The radiator length here is 277mm. So this PL240 does have thicker tubes. It is a lower profile pump head though. This is about 42mm. And so if you're that constrained in terms of the space above your CPU, this one is a little bit better. So for Intel installations, you need to use the backplate that they provide. For AM4, AM5, if you've used some of Cooler Master's previous coolers like this PL240 here, this is revised and improved. So they used to have this 2-point mounting system here, and that it just uses the stock AM4, AM5 backplate and the included cooler mounts from your motherboard, and you just tighten down at 2 points here. However, with the Atmos, that does change to a 4-point mount. You got the standoffs that go into the stock backplate. So once you attach these mounting brackets to the pump head, you can then mount this pump head to the standoffs that you'll mount to the stock AM4, AM5 bracket. Now, in the past, I have noticed with some of these 2-point mounts that you really have to be deliberate with the mounting pressure, and since they are hand tightened, they can work fine when tightened down all the way, but if you can't tighten down properly, if there's not enough elbow grease, or it's got slippery or something like that, the difference results in more than a few degrees on the AM4 platform when I tested it. So with the 4-point mounting system, that is largely alleviated. You can also use a driver on those mounting nuts. So I think it's a good improvement here. Other neat things, you got decent braided tubing. It's not as thick as the PL240, but it's still strong. But being thinner, the tubing has a little bit more flexibility here. And when I installed in the QUBE 500, I managed to be able to snake the tubing out of the way when it was top mounted, and that was great. The flexible elbows at the pump head helped, didn't kink. So this tubing design, it's pretty good. They also include these clips here to manage your tubing. It's a handy little thing. You don't have to use it, but if there's a certain way you want the tubing to kind of lock into place, this is pretty handy. On the pump head, this cover here is all recycled plastic, according to Cooler Master, and underneath it kind of looks like a heatsink, but it is not. This is just plastic, and you can pop this out. There's a little groove at the end here, and you can just kind of pull it out. This is user customizable, so you could 3D print, using one of their example files, and be able to swap some out. This was just one that I mocked up based on their 3D printing file, and it's not perfect. This would have been better if I printed it with some supports, and it's kind of messy. And there's, because there's quite a bit of overhang on this piece, so print it with supports. But just a quick and dirty thing. It, works fine. Pop it out and install it and customize it. So it's pretty cool. This does have lighting. It is a hexagon around the pump unit. It's not overdone, so I think most users should find that satisfactory. You can always just turn it off. The pump is redesigned. It's a redesigned 2-chamber pump, and I can tell you these things are really quiet. In my experience from testing a lot of AIOs, the one in the PL240 and this one, these are among the quietest out there on the market right now. So let's talk performance. The fans, they're not ones that I've tested before. This is a new variation. I wouldn't have put the sickle flow fans in the high performance category, but these aren't too bad. They don't look anything like the sickle flows that I'm used to. So this is obviously it's a different design. At a noise normalized level, tested with the 5800X and the NR200, running at 4.6 gigahertz on 1.25 volts. 1365 RPM is our first noise normalized interval here, about a decibel over the noise floor. And I think this is the ideal LCS noise optimized level, since it'll allow you to get the turbo boost clocks that you can get out of most CPUs around that 130 watt level. So your i7s, your Ryzen 7s, that sort of thing. Those should run to the full extent that they're capable of. You just max it out around this noise level. And I was surprised how good this unit was, because the PL240 and the EK Nucleus are some of the best sub 30mm radiator units AIOs out there. And here the Atmos squeaks past even both of these, and these are very, very competitive AIOs already, even with units that have thicker radiators like Arctic's Liquid Freezer 2. But at this thickness, you get much better compatibility, easier install. Interestingly, at higher levels, it's still competitive, but now it's just behind the others a little bit. And that trend does continue on to the next level at +5 or so dBA. But if you are going to hit your peak performance at a certain noise interval, I think for an LCS, the quieter noise level, it's pretty key, and I would typically take that over any higher RPM performance. So I think if they optimize it for that level, that's pretty solid. And I did also test in the Encase M1 Classic with a 7900X, and it was running pretty good by Ryzen 7000 standards for the all-core render at 5.3 gigahertz and 1.25 volts. Now this is at 1880 RPM, but we are talking about 164, 165 watts of draw here, so considerably more power. Like I mentioned, the pump, it is pretty quiet. Now this is a recording taken pretty close to the pump head, so listen to the comparison there. There's really nothing detrimental to note here, no weird clicking or buzzing. If you do find yourself having to run your CPU cooler fans above 2000 RPM for a liquid cooling solution, you really should take a look at your radiator choice a little bit more judiciously. So overall, great choice if you're looking for a high-performing 240. It looks good. The pump is solid, it's incredibly quiet, great packaging and installation experience here, and I think it's going to be in the top tier of performance for 240mm units on the market right now. It is especially exceptional at that noise optimized fan level. Pricing for this one, it's at $140 US, which is the same as the PL240. It's also $20 less than the EK Nucleus CR240 Lux, which has the RGB, and Cooler Master offers a 5-year warranty on this as well. So overall, one to check out. Hope you found the information helpful. If so, please give a like. Make sure you are subscribed for content like this. Links are down below for the unit, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.